have to end this event on time, so we'll start shortly. Please take your seats. So, welcome everyone to the closing session of the 58th Annual Meeting of the ADB Board of Governors. I'm Harumi Kodama, your moderator for this session. So we have about 45 minutes, so we'll get started. First, I'd like to invite the Secretary of the Asian Development Bank, Asel Jutsbekova, up on stage for her opening remarks. Asel.
Warm welcome, everyone. ADB has held 57 annual meetings in the past, but this is the first one where we have a closing session. We have always had an elaborate opening session, and we have sessions throughout the 4-day period that discuss different topics. We also have a future host country event that bridges the annual meeting to the next. However, we thought it is important to bring the participants together to reflect upon all the important issues we discussed and what we, ADB, and our stakeholders can do to build upon these discussions. And for that, ADB senior management invites you to this reflective closing. On stage today are all 6 of the vice presidents of our bank. You are in for a treat, as this is not a sight that even ADB staff get to see every day. The vice presidents represent the bank's senior management, and they have assembled here today to share their perspectives, highlight significant achievements, and outline future directions in line with the theme, Sharing Experience, Building Tomorrow. Please enjoy the session.
Thank you, Asel. Now let me introduce the panelists. First, we have Bruce Gosper, who is the Vice President for Administration and Corporate Management. He oversees, among other departments, the Office of the Secretary, my office, which was responsible for organizing this annual meeting, which I hope you have all enjoyed. To his left is Roberta Casali, the Vice President for Finance and Risk Management. She is responsible for making sure that the bank remains financially sound and is adequately guarded against risks. Roberta is also from Italy, which, as you know, is the host country for this year's annual meeting. To her left is Fatima Yasmin, who serves as the Vice President for Sectors and Themes. She oversees the Sectors Department and the Climate Change and Sustainable Development Department, making sure that we deliver integrated solutions to address Asia-Pacific's development challenges. Moving on, you see Vice President Scott Morris. As one of the 2 regional vice presidents, VP Scott is responsible for overseeing ADB's operations in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. Next to him is Bhargav Dasgupta, the vice president responsible for managing ADB's departments that deliver market solutions to catalyze Asia and the Pacific's private sector development. And last but not least, we have Vice President Yinming Yang, who is also a regional vice president responsible for overseeing ADB's operations in South Asia and Central and West Asia. So now with those introductions, let's open this panel discussion with a theme that was a key component of our midterm review of our Strategy 2030, and that is digital transformation. As you know, digital technologies are transforming economies and societies very rapidly, changing products, services, business models, and industries. Well, digital transformation has great potential for advancing the development agenda and growing the private sector. It also carries with it some downsides that need to be addressed. So I'm going to start off with VP Fatima. Can you share your key takeaways on this theme?
Thank you, Harumi. Digital transformation is reshaping how economies function and how development solutions are delivered. According to World Economic Forum, digital technologies can unlock up to $2 trillion in additional GDP and create 65 million new jobs by 2030. However, to unlock these opportunities, we have to address the challenges such as the current digital divide. 1.5 million people in our region still remain unconnected to the internet. If not properly managed, digitalization can deepen divides, spread misinformation, displace jobs, and threaten data privacy. As ADB adopts digitalization in its projects, we must address these potential downside risks. These demand inclusive policies and secure infrastructure to build public trust. ADB has recently enhanced the Digital Sector Office to ensure strategic and pragmatic approach to overcoming these challenges. We are covering a wide range of activities such as regulatory frameworks, cybersecurity laws, digital skills and infrastructure, and affordable access to all. During yesterday's governors' plenary, ADB governors underscored that digital transformation is no longer an option, but an absolute necessity. To start responding to many of these requests from our DMCs, we are organizing the first interministerial meeting at the end of June in the headquarters. ADB is helping harmonize digital standards, enabling cross-border trade, and building unified digital markets, laying the foundation to shared prosperity across the region.
Thank you, VP Fatima, for those very informative reflections. Now, VP Bruce, would you like to add your perspective from a different angle?
What I'd say very briefly is I think this meeting for me has brought very clearly into view two things. One is the requirement, the request from all our DMCs to assist them in harvesting the opportunities and managing the challenges of digitalization. So we had understood that, but it's quite clear from all of you that you expect us to assist you in that area. So message heard. The second thing is it's been quite encouraging to see how many potential partners have come here. So businesses, other agencies, other government agencies who are bringing to the table their capabilities, their interests, and a willingness to partner. Because this issue is going to require a lot of effort over many years. It's going to require a lot of engagement across many spheres of our countries. It's going to require a lot of money. We need all the partners we can get. So thank you to all the partners that have been here as part of this exercise, and we look forward to keeping that relationship going.
Thank you, VP Bruce, for your thoughts. Now, VP Roberta, perhaps you would like to come in with a host country angle.
So let me say that across these 4 days, we have heard clearly that digitalization can be a powerful tool to help reduce persistent economic inequality in the area. We have already heard, and we have heard very clearly, as my colleague were saying, that the digital leap may worsen inequality and gender gaps as well. Europe and Asia. Let me start by saying something about Europe. Europe and Asia Pacific face common hurdles in the digital landscape, and particularly with respect to data sovereignty and technological autonomy. Both continents grapple with a significant shortage of skilled professionals in critical digital fields that can hinder innovation and competitiveness, which are very important for growth and development. And these common challenges present opportunities for collaboration. So my takeaway also for the big engagement, the large engagement that I had with host country seminars, and in all these, the seminars that we had, is that we face enormous challenges, but the growth is also remain very strong. So we have to combine growth, development, and challenges and see the opportunities. And certainly there are a lot of opportunities in the digitalization for our DMCs. We heard your message clear, very clear, and strong and loud. And so closer cooperation between continents, again, building bridges, building initiatives together that can put together the beauty of our powerful ideas and discussions are certainly required and are certainly the best response for what is needed to reach a more inclusive, more secure, interoperable, innovative digital future.
Thank you, VP Roberta, for those interesting perspectives. Now, let's turn to another theme of our annual meeting, which is frontiers of the energy revolution. Across Asia and the Pacific, countries are facing urgent challenge of balancing energy needs for rapid economic growth with energy security and affordability. During the annual meeting, we explored how we can solve these complex challenges, including through innovative technologies for energy supply, engaging the private sector, promoting regional connectivity, meeting the demand for critical minerals, and ensuring that clean and modern energy benefits us all. VP Scott, let's hear from you on this topic as you represent many of our developing member countries that are working in this area.
Sure, thank you. I do want to say, by the way, on the digital agenda, I think one of the great innovations of recent years is this digital clock that keeps us all on time. We can see very clearly that we shouldn't be going over. I think you've outlined the nature of the agenda on energy very well. I think we're meeting here at a time that reemphasizes the huge ambition around meeting countries' energy needs. I think for ADB, we already have a track record of making big commitments around renewable energy as the anchor of meeting these energy needs going forward. We have a lot of models of both success, but even models of innovation that we continue to test that particularly rely on the private sector, use blending arrangements that incentivize these investments. I think what's becoming clearer are the fundamental needs that have always existed, namely that you need effective transmission for energy, and then really to make renewable the anchor that it needs to be, we need energy storage. So I think so much of the discussion now is focused on that. I think sort of the showcase that encapsulates all of that this week is the ambition that we have in support of ASEAN countries around an ASEAN power grid. So the president is very excited to announce up to $10 billion in ADB's own financing in support of this initiative. That's a big number, but this really is an initiative that is owned by the region, by the Southeast Asian countries, and our role both in financing and providing counsel and expertise is really aimed at unlocking much greater sums that are needed within the region, particularly from the private sector. The ambition of the initiative is not just in the size of financing, it's in addressing the technical complexities of achieving not just domestic power grids, but the interlinkages across the region. There's a political economy to that as well, and I think that's space that we will try to help to navigate with our partners in the region. The end goal, of course, is the regional nature of this, that the best way both to meet energy needs, renewable energy needs within each of these countries is to create a regional market, because that's both meeting energy needs, but also creating a source of development progress for countries, particularly those who have the opportunity to be exporters of these new sources of energy. So it's something we're very excited about.
Fascinating insights, VP Scott. Now, switching gears from the public to the private sector, VP Bhargav, could you share your views?
Thank you, Harumi. And just to add to the points that Scott made, if you look at the generation, distribution, storage, there are multiple new technologies that are emerging, largely given the innovation that private sector is bringing in. But since we talked about the digitalization before, let me try to bring the two in. And there was a very interesting session that we had in this annual meeting. We talked about digital transformation of energy systems. And if you think about how the new technology, from smart grids to AI-driven demand management to, we have cloud, storage when you think about digital, but distributed storage using the similar technologies for even energy, rather than centralized battery storage, distributed storage of energy. So there are a lot of technologies that are emerging, which are very, very exciting. I think one of the things that we see is some of these technologies are new and initially expensive, but the beauty of some of these technologies is that as scale, as we get more scale, the cost drops dramatically. And maybe initially you may need some amount of support, and we have our own initiatives, something that Scott talked about. But as we scale these up, these become very viable commercially, and that's what we should encourage and drive. I think to answer your point on private sector, I think what private sector brings in is not just capital, but all of the points we just talked about, innovation. But it's really since the 3 E's, right? The expertise, the efficiency, and the execution. And that's the value that private sector brings to some of these projects. And I think the work that we are doing collectively as ADB in terms of market development in some of these areas is extremely positive, and that's something that we are very keen to see how we progress. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Bhargav. Next, we turn to regional cooperation, which is embedded in the ADB Charter and is the cross-cutting theme of this year's annual meeting. Over the past 4 days, we reaffirmed the critical importance of promoting regional cooperation amid global uncertainties. We discussed not just regional cooperation within Asia and the Pacific, but also highlighted the Europe-Asia connection, which Roberta just talked about, given the presence of many European colleagues here in Milan. Now, VP Yingming, I know you're passionate about regional cooperation, so why don't you kick off on this topic?
Thank you, moderator. Indeed, I have a personal affinity with ADB's ICI mandate. 22 years ago, when I was still young, so I represented the PRC negotiating the joint statement of the first ministerial conference of CARIC. And the CARIC played an important role in connecting Asia and Europe. In the past several days, I feel the demand for regional connectivity has become stronger. More importantly, I feel very much inspired because I see the emergence of a new generation of ICI, which is characterized with green and digital transformation. We will strive to meet those aspirations for green and digital regional cooperation. And we are going to mainstream digital technology into regional connectivity, like promoting smart transport and smart energy connectivity. We will continue to strengthen our efforts in leveraging digital technology for trade facilitation and for creating more opportunities in trading in digital services. Because as UNCTAD's analysis highlighted, digital trade will become the new engine of the global growth. We are going to find the best ways to reduce the cost of green transformation and meanwhile promote a balanced delivery of the climate and development objectives. For example, we are going to support some major regional projects of connectivity, like the regional electricity networking and trading, so that smaller economies like Tajikistan, like Bhutan, like Nepal, like Kyrgyz can transform their abundant hydro resources into national economic growth and job creation, and at the same time, accelerating the response to climate change by scaling up the use of clean energy in other countries. And as has been highlighted by our president in his opening remarks, promoting private sector-led growth and job creation will become a core priority of ADB. In this context, we are going to conduct business forum at the margin of the Carrick Ministerial Conference this year in Kyrgyz. By concluding, let me call upon all stakeholders to help connect digitally, greenly, grow jointly, and inclusively. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel excited just listening to you, VP Yinming. Now, VP Scott, as the other regional VP, would you like to add another perspective from another region?
Yeah, well, the same level of excitement. I think Yingming laid it out very well. You know, in a sense, it's a hidden gem of ADB as an institution. We actually are unique in the level of support that we target at regional levels and formally. You know, you mentioned Carrick, but you know, in my regions, there's ASEAN, there's GMS, there are other acronyms maybe you've never heard of, but are really important within the sub-regions. So there's that formal role that is really critical, not so much as a financing role, but targeting the policy agenda. And you know, the other thing I would say, even outside of that kind of support for these regional bodies, is the agenda itself is very wide in scope, whether defined by sectors or initiatives. And I think of, I mean, I mentioned the ASEAN Power Grid on the one hand, and then the other, you know, one that I'm personally excited about is this so-called Regional Flyways Initiative, which is about connecting protected wetlands all the way from the Arctic down to New Zealand, a huge regional scope to it. And it requires a degree of coordination and cooperation. It's the kind of thing that as an institution, ADB can do very effectively, including linking country-level programming, actual project financing, with discussions across countries about how to achieve this outcome of supporting migratory birds, but also doing it in a way that is delivering real development value to populations across a wide scope of developing countries. So it's really an exciting initiative, and it's just, you know, one other example of a huge and diverse range of activities that we do under this regional umbrella.
Very exciting indeed. Thank you. Now that we have heard from our two regional VPs, perhaps we can ask VP Roberta to share her thoughts from the donor perspective.
The donor perspective, okay. I believe that regional collaboration and cooperation and integration is certainly central, and I cannot agree more with what my colleagues have already said. And again, for donors, it's important to join us, and I believe that they are very close to our mandate, and they have been always very close to our mandate. collaboration here is so important to reach our strategic objective and to reach really what we want to do on the very important strategic topics for our area of work. So for the food transformation, for, as it was said, for the energy security, for the resilience of the area, for the digital innovation, it's important that we engage together. And what has been heard in these 4 days, and again, it's really an honor for me to attend in my country this annual meeting, is very, very important. We have seen a lot of interest of working together, join forces, engage with ADB, and really ADB can be, and I truly believe is perceived by all our donors as a gateway to Asia and the Pacific. And that is where all the donors countries not only contribute with their expertise, with their money, because we need money, with, of course, the initiatives to reach a different and more powerful integration in the area. And let me conclude once again saying that here reaching cooperation and integration, building bridges is so important, especially in these challenging times. And probably is the most powerful tool that we can have to share our global threats, and that is in the interest also of our donors. Last word. I'm here in my beloved city and country, and I'm personally touched for what I have seen and what I have experienced in these 4 days, because I really believe that a lot has been reached in these discussions and in the new initiatives that the future can bring together. So the promise is that we should all make this atmosphere continues beyond this annual meeting. And sharing experience, I'm looking at Francesca, as we have done in Milan, is the foundation for building our future prosperous tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta, for those very heartfelt words. Next, we turn to food systems transformation. So we have seen an announcement made at this year's annual meeting of ADB's renewed ambition to finance $40 billion by 2030 for food systems transformation. The renewed ambition will focus on the protection of natural resources and ecosystems, improved nutrition and balanced diets, scaling up of agribusiness financing, rural economy revitalization, job creation, and gender equity, among others. And I know that VP Fatima will tell us a little bit more about this very exciting new ambition.
Let me start with the background. The Asian Pacific face deep and persistent food security. Over half of the world's hungry live here. Nearly 2 billion people cannot afford healthy diets. The triple crisis, climate change, biodiversity loss, and the pollution is placing further pressure on production and supply chains. One of our recent work reveals that the connected nature of challenges, food security is not just an agriculture issue or the rural issue. It is a matter of urban access, trade logistics, social protection, and climate resilience issue. Asia feeds 50% of the global population with just 28% of global fresh water and 37% of cropland. Food system value chains are also vulnerable to the external shocks. That is the reason we had our ambition for 14 billion by 2025. And in this annual meeting, President Kanda has declared the enhanced ambition for food system transformation to 40 billion by 2030. Our projects in the pipeline include low carbon agriculture, glacier to farm program, nature farming and AI-driven weather services, and sustainable rice farming. We are also see strong potential to strengthen the food value chains through harmonized standards, logistics corridors, and integrated early warning systems. Transformation will require collaborative action from farmers to policymakers to private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Fatima. Now, our last theme is innovation for resilience. The impacts of the changing climate, from extreme heat, rising sea levels, water shortages, and extreme weather conditions are reversing hard-won development gains. During the annual meeting, participants discussed how we can build resilience against these shocks through new technologies, practices, and strategies, and through engaging the private sector. Coming back to VP Yingming, please share your thoughts on this very last theme.
Thank you, moderator. Well, the last but not the least has become a cliche. But when it applies to the last of today's topic, it may contain existential truths, because in a large degree, resilience means life and death of human beings. When I serve as a client representative, I tend to look at the value added from ADB's partnership from three lenses of innovations. That is institutional, technological, and financial innovations. First, institutional innovation is about systematic capacity building. ADB has been helping the client countries to build climate-friendly and resilient economic and sectorial management system, such as piloting resilient budget practices and developing framework to guide resilient sectorial development, such as resilient infrastructure and tourism development. Second, technological innovation defines the frontier of resilience. We are mainstreaming digital technology into our operations, promoting smart infrastructure, smart city development, smart agriculture, smart electricity development. We will leverage the regional platform, such as the AI-empowered risk modeling and open climate data, to help South Asian countries to anticipate and mitigate shocks faster and recover and rejuvenate stronger. Suffice it to say, innovation for resilience as an emerging priority for ADB requires a learning by doing process. ADB, in order to play a leading role in this area, need to learn from its client countries, from its member countries, because Asia and the Pacific is now not only the engine of the global growth, but also a major driver of global innovation. ADB should strengthen its efforts to facilitate peer learning in the region. Here again, the message from our president during his opening speech matters and counts. ADB need to be humble in order to be effective. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Yinming. Now, let's contrast that with the private sector perspective. VP Bhargav?
Again, thanks, Harumi. So maybe let me share some of the conversations that happened in the last 3 days, particularly in the private sector side, and some of the work that we've been doing, just to concretize maybe some of the points that Yingming also makes. So if you look at certain sectoral focus, right? So one of the areas that we discussed on this aspect is the hard-to-abate sector. And we had an outstanding panel discussion and talking about what we can do in some of these sectors like steel, fertilizer, transportation, etc. And one very nice example that I can share with all of you here is we had on our panel one of our clients that we had financed 40 years back to set up a steel plant. And we are now financing the same steel plant to transition into cleaner energy sources and more efficient utilization of energy. And I think that's the very useful and valuable role that we play in the private sector. Staying with our clients through the journey of development and bring in some of these financing that is needed for transition as we are working on it. All of that is part of our objective that we have in terms of resilience. Looking at food security, we had some of our clients who are using, we talk about the food security, and Fatima talked about the commitment that we've made, but it's also becoming a lot more efficient in terms of the cost and the wastage in both in production and distribution. And some of our clients are using AI and sensors to make it even more effective in terms of utilization of resources, as also reducing wastages, entire cold chain, value chain, etc., and making it effective. One of our clients was talking about how the losses in their value chain has come down to single digit. I think all of that increases the food security as also resilience. And there are other examples, but I want to touch upon 2 points. I think the key point from a finance perspective is, or the institutional building perspective is, how do we as ADB encourage the private sector innovation? And one of the things that we've done over the last 5 years is invest in some of the startups through our ADB Ventures and the early stage seed investment. And that's creating traction as we go along. But that's something that we really want to scale up and see what we can do in some of the more difficult markets. And one of the funds that we have is our Frontier Fund, which gives money to the very difficult markets where innovation doesn't get access to capital. And the other last point that I want to make in terms of resilience is disaster risk. We do a lot of work, but I think the traditional approach to disaster risk has been exposed. When something happens, we are there to help, and that's important. But I think there's an initiative that we are all collectively working on in moving more to the ex-ante side, finding insurance solutions, catastrophic bonds. I know Roberta is working on one of those, and that's something that I think is going to be increasingly important in this region if you want to think about resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Bhargav. I'd like to thank the VPs for sticking to their timelines. We're right on time. I'm very impressed.
Diligent.
We have time for one more intervention. So let's come back to VP Bruce for his key takeaways from this year's annual meeting.
Thank you very much, Harumi. So 2 things that I heard and 1 thing that I hope you heard. So first of all, many delegations talked about procurement. Procurement is a really important part of the way the bank works, and what I heard was a lot of support for the lift we are undertaking to lift quality in the procurement outcomes, and a lot of interest in how we actually go about providing opportunities for people to bid for this business. So it's exactly what we want. We want vibrant, competitive processes to bring the best from the world into our procurement practices. And we want to build local capability in a very positive way. So it was good to hear that. It reinforces the path we're on. Thank you. The second thing is, I note so many interventions that you gave talked about these being uncertain times. For the poor and vulnerable, of course, these times are always uncertain. Finding your next meal, thinking about an education for your child, thinking about survival, a roof over your head, the impact of some climate-related event. There's a lot of concern now about how we actually ensure viable paths for growth. The one perspective we hope we give you, and indeed the perspective I think we hear so much, is that a bias to openness is an important perspective. The world needs Asia to flourish, but Asia needs access to the best technology, to markets, to investment from around the world. So providing the right bias to openness to make sure that we take advantage of this and position the region properly, I think will be very important. Turning inwards is always a mistake. So the work we're undertaking on regional cooperation and integration is particularly important. Thirdly, the thing I hope you heard was an expression of the ADB as an institution that's healthy and confident and responsive to your interests. President Kanda talked about humility and contribution and trust. They're things that we don't take lightly. I hope when we talk about the agenda, you fully appreciate that we've heard you, but we're listening always to ensure that we're really on point in responding to your needs. The world needs institutions to work, institutions that take the interests of its clients seriously, of all its citizenry seriously, that have good processes to safeguard the interests of local communities, that are fully accountable and so forth. But this institution is firmly grounded in the needs of its clients and in being fully responsive to your interests. I hope you heard that and that you view this with confidence and that we've earned your ongoing trust.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the 6 vice presidents of ADB for sharing your fascinating thoughts and reflections at the end of the annual meeting. The 45 minutes went by so quickly with such a rich discussion and diverse perspectives, which really reflect the breadth of our institution. We hope you leave this annual meeting with a lot of food for thought, and we hope to see you next year in Uzbekistan as we continue to fulfill our mission to support sustainable, inclusive, and resilient growth for Asia and the Pacific. But before you leave Milan, please stop by next door right after this in about 15 minutes and join the Future Host Country event to get a glimpse of what you can find in Samarkand. There will be refreshments and cultural performances at this event, which I'm sure you will all enjoy. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our closing session. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in Samarkand. Thank you.